What's up, you guys? Welcome to trèSci Weekly, episode 18. Today is Monday, June 5th. Already. I'm one of your hosts, Jonathan Ullman, alongside the master of the R-Bands book, Tom Kea.
How's it going?
Pretty good. Give us a little That's a very inside joke for probably most of our viewers, but that's okay. How are you today?
Doing well. Good. How are you, my man?
I'm good. I'm hanging in there. Still having a little discomfort in the fingers. Bought a brace for those of you keeping tabs from week to week here on my wrist health. I think it's carpal tunnel, actually. So not really sure what to do about it. Totally honest with you.
I'm not a doctor.
Bought a wrist brace for sleeping. It's been helping a little bit.
That's good, actually. Yeah, people recommend that so you don't sleep on it weird or anything.
Yeah, but be nice to give it an actual rest. I think is what it needs, which I've not been able to do. My mom moved this past weekend into Patchogue. Helped her move all the furniture on my day off from moving stuff at work, and that was a whole fun ordeal. Let me tell you, Tom. Got to the U-Haul place. My mom ordered a 26-foot truck. That's a big truck.
That's a big truck.
Yeah, I get in it, and I'm like, dude, this thing is just monstrous. And it starts beeping at me when I turn it on, and there's a brake emergency light going on there. So I asked the dude, that helped rent it out to us, is like, hey man, why is this beeping at me? And he was like, oh, I don't know, I've never driven one of these before.
What?
So then he goes and calls his boss, and then he comes back and tells me, oh, my boss said once you put it in drive, it should stop beeping, it should be good. And I was like, I don't trust you on that, man. So I'm going to drive it once around the block and see if that does it. And it didn't. And then I got a smaller truck because
That's funny, though.
Yeah, but anyway, long-winded opening act here. Welcome to trèSci Weekly. This is our weekly video podcast where Tom and I talk about science news and other things kind of just off the top of our heads here a little bit. But mostly about science and the trending topics of the week. If you're new to the show, welcome. If you're a frequent flyer of the show, thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting. I want to give a big shout out to our Patreon supporters. We're in a new month now.
We're in June.
So our Patreon supporters for May, thank you so much for the continued support. Those Patreon patrons are Dan Smith, Juan Gonzalez, Karen Kea, and Ryan Nash.
Nice.
So
Thank you again for all the support. Yeah, we really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys. We know the show has been definitely, kind of more concise as of the most recent weeks. But we definitely like that you guys are continuing to support us. So that's really awesome.
Yeah.
Have I said everything I need to say?
Like us on Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff.
Yep, all that good stuff.
Share articles, tag us in articles.
You know what to do.
The usual.
Yeah, you've watched the show. You know what to do. Tom, 4 stories on the docket today for the news.
4 good ones.
4 good ones. I know what everybody thinks the opening story is going to be about, but I just can't, in my heart of hearts, make this show primarily about Donald Trump. So we're going to talk about actual science first,
and then we'll get
into this. So I don't want everybody to think I'm burying the lead here. I know about the Paris Climate Agreement. I know we're going to get there, I promise. But let's get there later because some actual cool stuff happens this past week.
This show is for Pittsburgh, not Paris.
Exactly. All right, so let's get into it. First story, number 1, LIGO, the Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory, has confirmed its 3rd detection of gravitational waves that are generated from the merger of 2 black holes.
So when 2 black holes come together, start whipping around, and then we detect the ripples in space-time from this amazing event.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
Pretty awesome. Einstein theorized this 101 years ago, and last year we got the first confirmation that it actually exists.
Yep.
On the 100th year anniversary of his theory,
theory
of general relativity. And here we are now, a year later, with our third detection of this event. So this is pretty cool.
And I was reading also a fourth one that was kind of like they want to be official about it.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not well constrained as far as like their error bars go, I think.
Yeah, so they just kind of just put it on like an aside, an asterisk.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Kind of like when you do steroids in baseball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He hit 65 home runs.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Dubbed GW170104, the merger was detected on January 4th, 2017 by LIGO's pair of laser-calibrated sensors, one in Hanford, Washington, the other in Livingston, Louisiana, that measured the ripple in space-time caused by the propagation of gravitational waves. So, just as you kind of explained before, so these two massive objects combine into one. That event causes actual space-time to kind of
ripple,
wiggle,
almost like the surface of a lake.
Exactly. Yeah. When you throw a rock into a lake, you see a big ripple event.
Of the energy. Yeah.
And we measure the time delay between two perfectly calibrated lasers on opposite sides of the country.
From
almost.
Washington State to Louisiana.
Yep. And that time delay tells us what that ripple kind of means as far as energy goes. Pretty crazy. According to the paper published by B.P. Abbott et al., quote, the inferred component black hole masses are 31.2 times the mass of the sun and 19.4 times the mass of the sun at the 90% credible level, end quote. This puts the mass of the merged black hole at approximately 48.7 solar masses, or times the mass of the sun, with two solar masses of matter being converted directly into gravitational wave energy, a la Einstein's famous E equals mc squared equation.
Yeah, so when we're using the E equals mc squared equation, you're trying to figure out how much mass you're losing is changing to see how much energy you're getting. So I looked up before how much mass was used to make the energy from the atomic bomb in Hiroshima, and that one said it was 700 milligrams.
Wow. Dude.
And you just said it was two solar masses being converted into energy.
Yeah.
So 700 milligrams, which is less than like a paperclip.
Yeah.
Less than 1 gram of energy less than 1 gram of mass being turned into energy is an atomic bomb. And we're taking 2 suns worth of mass and turning it into energy here.
Yeah.
So in the article, it says that this event has the energy of basically the entire universe when it's happening.
That's insane.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's got to be some sort of underlying secrets and, under things going on with events this big, that we don't know of yet, right?
Yeah.
And there seems to be a lot of potential going into the future with these type of experiments. Because like you said, this is the third time we've detected the waves now, and they're hoping this is more of a regular thing. So this is like a richer field of study.
Right.
So it's very new, but it's exciting already.
Yeah, I mean 3 times in 2 years, basically, since LIGO's been detecting these events means that, they're not that rare.
These things do happen. Yeah.
Exactly. They must be pretty common. So the significance of this is that LIGO seems to have proven that there exists a class of extremely massive black holes in our universe, much more massive than expected. While LIGO's second detection of a merger is more in line with what astronomers have observed of black holes using X-ray emission techniques, this current merger is just shy of the 36.2 and 29.1 solar mass black holes that merged to form a 62.3 solar mass black hole, which was LIGO's first detection back on September 14th, 2015. All right, so yeah, the first merger was actually black holes that merged into something even more massive than this one, but this seems to be a new breed of black hole.
A different type, yeah.
And we actually have a little graphic that we can put up there to give you guys an idea. I'll bring it up for us too, Tom. So here's a little chart. On the left-hand side, you see black hole mergers that we've studied using X-ray detection methods, using like the Chandra X-ray observatory.
Okay.
And you can see they're kind of all right in line with about 10 to 15 solar masses after they merge.
All pretty similar, yeah.
Yep, and then you see the ones from LIGO, that LIGO has detected in order here. So the first one is the most massive. The second one is the one that is kind of iffy. They're not really too sure about whether or not they can confirm the existence of that one. The third one here, the second confirmed one, the third one listed here, more kind of in line with the X-ray studied ones, and now this newest third confirmed merger is, again, much more massive. So this seems to point to an indication that this happens quite often, and that there are these just incredibly massive black holes in our galaxy and in our universe. So that's crazy.
Yeah, I was also thinking that they were sort of saying that on the scale that these are more massive than they're used to, right? So I was thinking possibly, since it's new, one, we have a small sample size, and two, we're probably easier and better at detecting something that's greater in magnitude, right?
Of course.
So that might play into it a little bit.
Sure.
But I'm definitely interested to see, as they get more and more results, what the outcomes are, what the masses are and what we're looking at.
Right.
So definitely interested in following up every time we get another result from LIGO.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Furthermore, puzzling in the data, GW170104 may indicate the first detection of a black hole merger where the spin of at least one of the constituent black holes before merging may have been misaligned relative to the overall orbital motion of the system. Right? So basically what we're saying here is these individual black holes, they're stars. They actually have a surface, and they spin in some direction. And what they're seeing preliminarily in the data here is that one of these black holes might have been spinning kind of, I don't know if it's counter rotational to the other one, or if it's maybe just at a different rate as what they measure when they merge together. Yeah, that should kind of be consistent, but I guess they're seeing that it might have been off a little bit from their calculations. So that could mean something here, Tom, right? This means that perhaps not all black hole mergers take place between stars that were already in binary systems prior to becoming black holes, and that they may come together later on as each black hole sinks to the center of a stellar cluster, right? So if we have stars, right? Yep. Stars start out of stars, and then they eventually become black holes after they supernova, right? What they're saying here is perhaps it's not just stars that were already orbiting one another that went into this black hole state and then merged. Perhaps two individual stars at opposite sides of a cluster of stars each became a black hole and then
made their way
right into kind of the centers of their cluster and then merged together. So
that's what this last one looks like.
Exactly.
Based on some of their spin and just the way that they didn't sync up exactly together.
Right. Now, more data and evidence is needed to confirm this scenario, however, but kind of an interesting way to look at it, because these are two conflicting ideas of how this behavior happens in the universe. So it would be interesting to see if they can find another one where it might look like this, or if they can get a better approximation from this particular study.
Yeah, and as of now, it sort of seems like that both are definitely possible. And we don't really know exactly which one is occurring at a higher rate more than another, because we've had such a small sample size. But just looking at the data, it looks like both possibilities are sort of the way it could happen.
Right. What's crazy to think of that's also puzzling here, Tom, is that the black hole comes from what was once a star.
Yes.
And so to imagine these massive, massive black holes merging into even more massive black holes, what were the original stars like before they became
a black hole?
Before they went supernova and became black hole? They must have been insanely massive.
Yeah, because once you're a big star and you supernova, if you were 20, 30 times massive than our sun, not all of that collapses into the black hole.
Right.
Because it blows a lot of itself off of it. So to be that big, it must have been an impressive star, or...
That's insane.
Yeah. Pretty massive.
Yeah. Crazy. So, let's take a look at the chat here. See if we have any comments about this so far. Caracolita says, and we are not sure about the dark matter. You kind of mentioned this at the top of the show before we went live, that dark matter must play some important role in this.
Yeah, whether this might lead us to have a better understanding of where mass may go in our universe, or how it's related to some sort of energy, because of two solar masses just worth of mass going away and then being directly converted into energy seems like that's a lot of mass and a huge amount of energy in an event that in the articles they describe as having as much energy as the rest of the entire universe. So I think as we study these more and more, I think we're going to get more inklings to maybe where the energy is from, or get better theories of dark matter.
Yeah.
Just because these events are so profoundly ridiculous that they have to have some sort of key or relationship to this dark matter or dark energy, I think.
Absolutely.
And there's a few speculative articles about there, and then you go to the comments and everybody's arguing because like there's no direct proof, but there's some people out there with some interesting ideas about what this may mean, but we'll see as we go on.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Chris Dudo says Katherine Heigl's career is a black hole. That's a little mean, but that's okay. We'll allow it, I guess. Moving on. Oh, actually, we have some videos.
Oh yeah,
that
let's check those out. I really like those videos.
So these are simulation videos, courtesy of the SXS Collaboration. That's a tough string of SXS. That's a really tough string of three letters to say back to back.
All right.
And the Max-Planck-Institut for Gravitationsphysik, right? The Albert-Einstein-Institut here. So we'll play the first one for you guys. Right, these are simulations, so obviously this is kind of computer generated, but I think it gives a nice depiction of what we're talking about black hole mergers. So as soon as you're ready, Kyle, I'll hit play so we can take a look. Right, so we have these two black holes coming together,
swirling
around, orbiting a common center of mass, and then they kind of just merge together.
Just like that.
And there's one more that we can show you guys. Alright, and this one's cool because it kind of gives you the effect of that gravitational wave ripple in the background.
Yeah, like right at the end as they come together. You can see it the most.
Yep.
And there they are.
There you have it.
Just like if you dropped a big pebble into a pond.
Yep.
Two black holes into the pond of space-time, as Carl Sagan would say.
I love it, dude. I love it. Beautiful.
Yeah, amazing.
Moving on. Number 2. Getting into a little neuroscience here, Tom.
I love neuroscience.
Yeah, me too. Super interesting. Neuroscientists have discovered how the brain performs the highly complex task of facial recognition. In a study conducted by Caltech researchers Li Chang and Doris Tsao, a computer program was used to generate 50 specific facial subfeatures from a set of 200 altered faces derived from real individuals. And we have a video of that also, just to give you an idea of like how they made all of these faces for the study. So, Kyle, when you are ready for that one, let me know when to hit play. All right. And so you can see they're kind of just toggling and moving around different features here and just generating a whole bunch of different faces.
Just by changing the parameters of like hairline and shapes of brow and nose and whatnot.
Yep.
Just to make various faces.
Exactly. And the idea was that the computer program was able to measure kind of the variations that mattered the most here, right? So I'll continue reading and we'll get more into that nitty-gritty. So these subfeatures include both spatial dimensions, such as the distance between a person's eyes or the length of their nose, as well as appearance. I'm sorry. So, spatial dimensions such as the distance between a person's eyes or the length of their nose, as well as appearance dimensions such as skin tone and texture. Right. So it wasn't really specific to a thing, right, on the face, but like just a distance or like the color palette, or it kind of calculated 50 of these most differentiating spaces. The things
that when they change, they make like sort of the biggest difference to making a person look different.
Exactly. Yeah. Perfectly said. This essentially gave the researchers a 50-dimensional face space database where each point is a specifically constructed face from which they chose 2,000 arbitrary faces for the study, right? So you can think of it as like a graph of 50 points on one end and 50 points on the other, and they were able to choose faces at any point to basically take arbitrary ones. So they weren't like, because they need them to be non-recognizable, right?
They don't want to just, so they had these random spots of faces where they were generated in the different parts of the parameters.
Right.
And they chose 200 of those.
2,000.
2,000,
yeah.
Okay.
So, right, because if you use just faces from actual people, then by measuring how recognizable they are, well, that's an actual person. So there's the chance that whoever is
somehow be recognized.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you need as random as you could get it. So they just generated random faces, and then they chose 2,000 arbitrary faces for the study. So now the study itself. To measure how the brain responds to facial stimuli in primates, electrodes were used to track 205 neuron cells in the brains of 2 macaque monkeys. What they found was that each neuron is tuned to respond linearly to one of the 50 facial subfeatures previously defined, and that the brain combines them piece by piece. Right? So these neurons fire off information exactly associated to those 50 spaces, right? Those 50 different features, and puts them all together one by one in order to create the image of the face, right, in the brain. That's awesome.
Yeah, all working together.
Furthermore, each neuron's firing rate acts independently of changes to other subfeatures. So, for example, the neuron that fires in response to skin tone will fire at the same rate when recognizing two similarly skin-toned faces, even if those faces have completely different jaw structures or eyebrow lengths, right? So it doesn't matter, right, how it puts it together. It's going to put it together in a specific order, and then that specific order is how you recognize an individual.
Yeah, so then, yeah, exactly. It's that series of things that you can recognize, and then when that happens in your brain, that's that person's face each time.
Right.
It goes through that cascade of recognition.
So this is important because previously we weren't sure if the brain held on to specific images of important people.
Yeah, like someone you would see every day.
Right. So, like, for example, you, like...
Do you recognize my face different from the dude walking down the sidewalk?
Right. And because I know you and we have a relationship, we weren't sure if the brain created, like, a little pocket of information that was...
stored like that person's face?
Right. And then sort of bases other people off of you, right? Like, how similar...
That was the sort of idea, the general idea.
Right. But that doesn't seem to be the case as far as this study is concerned,
yeah.
Right? So, kind of lost where I was. Here we go. To validate their findings, Chang and Tsao reconstructed their findings to work in reverse. That is, to build images of faces based on an algorithm of the neuron firings they recorded in the brain of the macaques.
So they took what they were seeing in the brain as they looked at these images, and then tried to make images just from what they saw in the brain.
Exactly.
So go the other way.
Take the order of the neuron firings that they recorded,
and then
run it back through the kind of other direction of the algorithm and see what
comes out.
Amazingly, the computer put together faces that look strikingly similar to the faces that were shown to the macaques during the experiment. Right? And we have an image of that. Kyle, if you could bring that one up.
And then KARIAS, was this done with PET scans?
That I am not sure. I would have to look into it.
Yeah, they said they were just using electrodes and they were trying to measure individual neuron cells. So I think they were doing that more specifically than like taking a brain scan.
Yeah.
I think they had like electrodes directly hooked up to where they wanted them.
I think you're right. So I think they were just measuring electrical signals of each individual cell.
Yeah.
And that way they could get basically a linear order to
of where it goes from the start to the end of the neuron chain to make the face.
Correct. I think so.
Yeah.
But I would have to reread the study to know for sure. But that's a great question. So yeah, so in the image here you can see on the left-hand side was the actual face that was shown during the experiment, and then when they ran it through the algorithm again, this is what the computer predicted the face to look like. And you can see, I mean, the faces look very similar.
Yeah, they really do.
So really, really incredible that this is probably how it works.
Yeah,
and it's interesting because it's simple, right?
Yeah, it is pretty simple, but at the end of the day, this is such a fundamental part of who we are as people and how we relate to each other. Because we were mentioning before, there's actually, if you damage that part of your brain, some people can't recognize faces of other people. And
that's right.
That's something that's pretty astonishing, honestly.
Yeah, so we looked this up right before the show. There is a disease or just neurological disorder known as prosopagnosia that, exactly.
Where if that part of your brain is compromised.
Yeah, I watched the whole thing about this on the news many years ago about people who have trouble recognizing people that they know that come into their lives and
day in and day
out, and they just every day have to be reintroduced to them because they don't recognize them.
But they can see things.
Absolutely,
they can see plenty of objects, but it's that neural pathway in their brain that creates this composite image of a face that got sort of messed up somehow.
Yeah, and
they can't recognize the face anymore. So I think that's something we take for granted because that would be insane to not be able to recognize people.
Yeah,
that would stink.
How hard?
You never know who anybody is.
Yeah, how hard would your life be? You know, like you have to be reintroduced.
Like
to...
everybody wears a name tag that you know. Like how do you do it?
Yeah. So with this knowledge of this study, though, I mean that could be a huge leap forward in understanding
those people.
Yeah, prosopagnosia for sure.
Interesting.
So, really, really interesting. All right. Shall we continue onward?
Yes, we shall.
Okay. Number 3, Tom. Back to space. NASA announced on Wednesday, May 31st, that the Solar Probe Plus spacecraft, a mission launching in 2018 that will come into closest proximity of the Sun than ever before, has been renamed the Parker Solar Probe. This is to honor astrophysicist Eugene Parker and represents the first time a space vessel has been named after a living person.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. NASA Goddard provides us a nice video for detailing the mission. So let's put the headphones on and we'll take a look.
Let's go to the sun.
At that. Let's go to the sun. All right. Kyle, whenever you are ready, my friend. Got the almost point. And we are good.
NASA's Parker Solar Probe mission is about to embark on a historic journey to our very own star, the Sun. Named for Dr. Eugene N. Parker, whose contributions have revolutionized our understanding of the Sun, Parker Solar Probe will usher in a new era of exploration. It's a mission of extremes. The spacecraft will plunge through the Sun's atmosphere, called the corona, and fly closer to the Sun's surface than any spacecraft in history. More than 7 times closer. The Sun's surface is hot, at temperatures exceeding 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit. But the real surprise is, its atmosphere is even hotter, 300 times hotter. Facing the corona's brutal heat and radiation conditions, Parker Solar Probe will finally provide answers to some of the most important questions about how our Sun works. As Parker Solar Probe speeds around the sun, making these measurements, it's moving at over 430,000 miles per hour. That's like traveling from New York to Tokyo in less than a minute. This mission is the culmination of 60 years' work by the best and brightest scientific and engineering minds. Today, our technology will let us achieve our dreams, to reveal the secrets of the corona and our sun, and to one day help better protect technology from the threats of space weather. In 2018, we will launch Parker Solar Probe, humanity's first mission to touch the sun.
NASA's been doing some really nice videos that we've been showing. This one, what is with that dude's voice? Like, it sounded like he was like promoting like I don't even know what, you know? Like,
I get what you're saying there.
It sounded like a car commercial of some sort or something.
It had like the classic advertiser voice.
Yeah,
but that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, it was good. It was very informational, which is why I wanted to show it, because you know, we could sit here and talk about it, but they do a really nice job kind of just wrapping it all up in 2 minutes there. So, pretty cool.
Yeah, the guy gets to have it named after him.
Yeah, so I want to just go ahead and point out Eugene Parker is a certified gangster, Tom.
Yes,
like, just super G
as
far
OGs,
as as far as astrophysics go. So I have a couple things here to note about him. In 1958, Parker championed the idea that the sun emits a constant stream of charged particles in all directions, what we colloquially refer to as the solar wind now, right? So, and you and I have talked about the solar wind.
And quite a few different stories.
Yes, quite a number of times. Prior to this, most scientists believed that the space between the surface of the sun and the planets in the solar system was simply an empty void or vacuum. Parker has also contributed greatly to the study of interstellar magnetic fields, predicting the spiral shape of the solar magnetic field in the outer solar system, which also bears his namesake. And I have an image of what that spiral feature kind of looks like. So Kyle would be so kind as to bring up that image there for us. This image is an artist's rendition of what it would look like. Credit goes to Werner Heil for this one. So this is what the magnetic field basically kind of looks like in terms of polarity. What points north, what points south, I guess. So pretty interesting. And this mission is going to be pretty cool. Like, we're going to fly something basically almost right into the sun.
As close as we can to the sun as possible.
Yeah, so that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'm expecting we'll get some really cool information out of that.
Absolutely.
Some really interesting data and hopefully some cool stories.
Yeah, so it's nice. A lot of people are ramping up their interest in the sun, especially with the solar eclipse happening this summer in August. And I personally love learning about the sun. I think the sun is super, super interesting. I mean, most of what we know about astrophysics
comes
in generally
from our sun.
Yeah, comes from studying our sun. So,
and there's a lot of stars out there, and stars are just an amazing thing.
Yeah.
So we were talking in the chat. James said an atmosphere 300 times hotter than the core. Sounds like us after backing out of the Paris Agreement.
Just you wait. We'll get there in a few minutes, my friend.
So in the video, it does say that the atmosphere, the corona of the atmosphere, is 300 times hotter than the surface of the sun, not the core of the sun.
Correct.
That's the if you're in the center of the sun, the exact center, that's extremely hot.
Yeah, that's the hottest point. Yeah. And that, I mean, that's just due to pressure.
Just the pressure. It's not like exactly. Just wanted to get that cleared up.
Yeah. Thank you for that. All right. And as promised, here we are with number 4.
If you guys didn't hear in the news.
On Thursday, June 1st, President Trump announced that the United States will withdraw from the Paris Climate Accord. As we mentioned back on last week's episode, the Paris Accord is an international agreement that aims to, quote, hold the increase in the global average temperature to well below 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels, and to pursue efforts to limit the temperature increase to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels, recognizing that this would significantly reduce the risks and impacts of climate change. It also aims to increase the ability to adapt to the adverse impacts of climate change and foster climate resilience and low greenhouse gas emissions development in a manner that does not threaten food production. And it also aims to make finance flows consistent with a pathway towards low greenhouse gas emissions and climate resilient development, end quote.
Yeah, so it does sort of seem like C is kind of an issue there with the Trump administration. Make finance flows consistent with a pathway towards low greenhouse emissions and climate resilient development means you sort of have to shift your focus of where you're putting your attention to. So this is sort of saying you need to make the shift and allow this new industry to develop. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's basically what they're trying to say.
Yeah. So the president calls the deal unfair for Americans, stating that our financial contributions, quote, subjects our citizens to harsh economic restrictions and fails to live up to our environmental ideals, end quote. Formally exiting the accord is no easy task, however. The legal process is expected to take 4 years to complete, which will almost assuredly become a hot topic item for the United States 2020 presidential election. Unsurprisingly, the news reverberated through media outlets and social media outlets, and we will kind of go through what some of the more noteworthy people are saying about this in just a second, Tom, but I want to kind of get your first initial gut reaction to this news.
Yeah, so I was honestly pretty shocked. Like, I was pretty sure he was going to they were going to talk about a lot of things and say a lot of things, but at the end of the day, they would say that they didn't leave. So initially I was just like, I can't believe this.
Yeah.
But as I was thinking about it more and more, I was reading a lot, and just on the political side, there's so much outrage to this decision, and the point was that there was a man running with this platform as Bernie Sanders, and he was running with this idea of protecting the environment and climate change, and it probably would have been a main ticket if it was covered more in the news, and a lot of articles that I was reading basically saying that it wasn't given its time, the climate change, in the debates and the discussions leading up to the candidates and the nominees and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But now, after the Paris Agreement, the climate news busted open and everybody covered it for a lot.
Right.
So at least he allowed the coverage to be a lot greater on it. And like we said, in 4 years it's going to take to actually get out of the Paris Agreement. I'm hoping that this is like one of the major platforms, how we're going to address the future, how we're going to change our economic and our energy needs as we move forward. I think that's going to be like the main platform for the 2020 election, probably.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Forward.
I don't see how it couldn't be basically one of the main topics. I mean, unless the United States engages in
some
warfare,
sort of crazy thing,
yeah, between now and then, I don't see how this couldn't be maybe the biggest controversial opinion. You know, either we're gonna be in or we're gonna be out. You know,
exactly.
Basically, the next 4 years are going to scrutinize Donald Trump on this decision, right?
Yeah, and on the initial reaction of it, I think it does send a ridiculous message and a bad message to all the other people who are looking for us to lead the way. And a part of the Paris Agreement is that we're setting up China and India in a way that we don't want them to develop these huge industries based off of fossil fuels, right? So in the Paris Agreement, we give a little bit of aid to the developing countries to help put it on their way. And the president calls it unfair. But if you think about it, we had this whole industrial revolution and we have an infrastructure to transition to renewable energy. They're in an economy that is ready to grow insane amounts when you look at the projections of what's going to happen in these countries. And it's unrealistic to expect them to go from a point of just beginning to become industrialized to go from this point to renewable energy. It's a jump that you don't have an infrastructure to go from this to that.
Precisely. Yeah.
So they need a little bit of help, and that's what the Paris Agreement is kind of doing. It recognizes that the global system is we're all interconnected, and we're better off giving them a little bit of the support that they need to put these things into practice and create a good, healthy global economy, as opposed to just trying to say dollars, we're in debt, this is where we need to cut money from.
Yeah.
I think you need to look at the bigger picture of the whole system itself, and then just what it stands for in general and what your country is standing for.
Yeah.
I was in disbelief when I was watching it, and the chat scrolls on the side, and I was reading some of the comments, and I was like,
yeah, it's
you just take a sigh, and you're like, man, okay, you gotta.
That was really well said, though. I fully agree with your stance on that, because this is a worldwide effort to keep climate change at a minimum. As much as we can contain it and try to not screw up the atmosphere for future generations,
for the whole planet.
Whole planet, we have to do that together.
We can't just say, we're going to do our own clean thing, and you guys do your own clean thing. Like, the way the whole system is all connected, we're the second biggest producer besides China. So we are a big part of the deal. You know what I mean? Like, that's inherent to who we are as a country. Yeah. You have to expect that, right?
And, I get it, right? The United States, we are not in a position where we need the kick in the butt to develop our own renewable resources and energy platforms. We're doing that, right? We are doing that, and the private industry is leading the way on that. That's awesome. That is fantastic, right? But we can't just be greedy and say, well, we have all of this information. We know how we're going to make the transition, and that's it. We're not going to help anybody out who also wants to change their way of producing, because that hurts us. It doesn't hurt us immediately, but it hurts us in the long run, because we've been covering it story by story, right? The permafrost in Alaska. The money that we're spending on helping the developing nations convert over to more renewable resources, that's going to be saved. Because if we don't do that,
then we'll just be combating the climate problems.
Effects of climate change. We're going to be cleaning up the mess of everybody else that isn't doing it. So we should just do it. We should, and we are the world leaders. We are the world leaders. We are the biggest. We put out the most GDP in terms of what we produce. Yeah. So for us to have a high amount of carbon emissions, that makes sense, because we also produce 25% of the world's gross domestic product. But these other nations don't do that, and so for them to be even comparable to us, on the same graph as far as their carbon emissions, that's not good, right? We need to help them convert over faster than they're going to do it on their own.
Exactly.
Okay. So I'm glad we're on the same page with that one. It seems like you and I are not the only ones that are on the same page with this. So let's get into what some of the other kind of noteworthy people have been saying about this decision. A lot of these quotes are going to come from individual people's Twitters. A few statements were made, so I'll try to point those out as they come about. So starting with Salesforce CEO Mark Benioff, on Wednesday night prior to the announcement on Twitter, quote, "Dear President Trump, as some of the largest companies in the U.S., we strongly urge you to keep the U.S. in the Paris Agreement," end quote. And there is an image that I'd like to bring up for this one.
Okay.
If I can find it. So you got me on the image? Awesome. So here is the letter. We won't read through the whole thing. But basically, as some of the largest companies based or operating in the United States, we strongly urge you to keep the United States in the Paris Agreement on climate change. It basically lists a whole bunch of reasons why, and it's signed sincerely Adobe, Apple, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Massachusetts, Danfoss, Dignity Health, Facebook, Gap Inc., Google, The Hartford, Hewlett Packard Enterprise, Ingersoll Rand, Intel Corporation, Johnson Controls, Levi Strauss & Company, Mars Incorporated, Microsoft, Morgan Stanley, National Grid, PG&E Corporation, Royal DSM, Salesforce, Schneider Electric, Tiffany & Company, Unilever, VF Corporation. So big companies here, Tom. You would think, right, with this announcement that the companies within the United States would be like, all right, awesome, the pressure's off now.
I even read that the president of ExxonMobil, even that.
Yep.
When you look at these big oil conglomerates, and even they're saying that the Paris Agreement, we should not have gone out of it.
Right. So there's that. Former governor of Massachusetts, Mitt Romney, also prior to the announcement on Wednesday night, quote, affirmation of the Paris Agreement is not only about the climate, it is also about America remaining the global leader, end quote. Mitt, where are you? Help us. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio, after President Donald Trump made the announcement, quote, I signed Executive Order 26 because New York City's future is threatened by climate change. We will honor the goals of the Paris Agreement, end quote. So that's nice to hear. Pittsburgh Mayor Bill Peduto, I think I'm saying that correctly.
And this one's nice because in the speech, Donald Trump says, I'm here representing the people of Pittsburgh, not Paris.
Right.
Which is kind of a misleading statement in itself. But the people from Pittsburgh had this to say.
Yeah, Mayor of Pittsburgh said, quote, as the Mayor of Pittsburgh, I can assure you that we will follow the guidelines of the Paris Agreement for our people, our economy, and future, end quote. So that's kind of the nice sort of thing to see here is that individually it seems like a lot of jurisdictions are going to say, well, I mean, yeah, if as a country at the federal level we're not supporting this, that doesn't mean anything because
we as
locally,
a country will still do it.
Locally, we can still uphold what the agreement says. So
the fallout of that is that for the whole agreement to work, and we're the second biggest country, is that we're sort of all connected. Where in the Paris Agreement, there are things relating our emissions to China's emissions, and the amount that we lower or raise it is directly what can happen in their country. So they're saying that as we move forward, if the United States lowers it by a certain amount or raises it a certain amount, that's what can happen in China as well. It sort of puts everybody in checks and balances. And the issue we were saying before is that here in the United States, we're doing a lot on the front of moving forward with following the agreement and moving forward with clean energy. But the biggest issue remains that it is the global issue.
Right.
Where it doesn't matter if in our country we still do it the right way, if we just don't provide the correct infrastructure to allow the other countries to follow through with what they want to do, but they don't have the infrastructure to do.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Is that
absolutely, yeah.
Everybody in our country knows this is the right thing and we're still going to do it.
Yeah.
But you can't just say everybody else figure it out on your own.
Yeah.
Because we're in a different situation than them.
Yeah.
I mean, before we move on, I just remembered a good point that I want to bring up is Trump says that we have a lot of natural resources in our country still and fossil fuels that we haven't used, and they're ours. The point that he tries to make is that we're sitting on them, and why should we take them away from us? Like we have them. The whole point is that we're not trying to take things away from us or away from other people. We're just trying to make a system that allows everybody to move forward with regards to energy in a way that makes sense for a sustainable future for the planet.
Right.
That's really all we're doing.
Yeah,
we're not trying to say that these sort of energy sources just can't be used at all or the wrong way to be used. It's like we could use these in our country for this long, but in order for in the future, you see how all the countries are connected. In order for us to reach a baseline that is good enough in the future, you need to follow what's going on in the agreement.
Right.
Like we can't just leave the countries to do what they want on their own.
No, it's not about the United States. It's about everybody else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why I just don't want people to be misinformed. When you see all these things on the news of people saying, oh, we're still going to follow through with the Paris Accord, we're still going to follow through with the climate, that doesn't mean the issue's over.
Right.
Like we still are withdrawing from the Paris Agreement, which is making sure the whole world is ready to move forward in a sustainable way.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Yeah. SpaceX founder and CEO Elon Musk said on Twitter, quote, "I'm departing presidential councils. Climate change is real. Leaving Paris is not good for America or the world." End quote. I thought that was pretty much a statement, right? Like, Elon Musk has been in the council. He's been somebody that the Trump administration has turned to for advice as far as moving forward with industry and scientific research kind of coexisting. And, good for him. If you're not going to listen to me,
then I'm done.
Then I'm done. You're not going to get my advice anymore.
Then why am I here?
Yeah. So I thought that was a bold statement. U.S. Secretary of Energy Rick Perry, quote, "President Trump's decision will prove to be the right course of action and one I fully support. Instead of preaching about clean energy, this administration will act on it. Our work and deeds are more important than empty words. I know you can drive economic growth and protect the environment at the same time, because that is exactly what I did as governor of Texas." End quote. Environmental Protection Agency head Scott Pruitt, quote, "We are leading the world with respect to innovation and technology at reducing our CO2 footprint. This agreement was truly about putting America second or last. It was not about learning from what America is doing. It was about putting constraints on the economy as the president talked about." End quote. Recently elected French President Emmanuel Macron, quote, "To all scientists, engineers, entrepreneurs, responsible citizens who were disappointed by the decision of the President of the United States, I want to say that they will find in France a second homeland. I call on them, come and work here with us, to work together on concrete solutions for our climate, our environment. I can assure you, France will not give up the fight." End quote. This is something that we've been saying for a long time, Tom, right?
Yeah.
When you start to cut funds to your agencies that do science research, and you make decisions like this, your foothold as the world's leading source of ideas and research, it's all gonna just get exported. It's all gonna go away.
Yep. It is. You can see it. You could definitely see it happening. I could definitely see it happening.
Yeah. And finally, just to kind of lighten the mood here, movie star and former governor of California, Arnold Schwarzenegger, quote...
Yeah, before you read this one, I shared it on Twitter. It's a really good video.
It is really good.
The whole video. It's a few minutes long. You should check it out. If you see Arnold Schwarzenegger's face, you know you made it to the right place. Yeah. And it's a really good little clip of
I'm just going to...
Quick
snippet. Quote, "One man cannot destroy our progress. One man can't stop our clean energy revolution. And one man can't go back in time. Only I can do that." End quote. So, yeah, but you're right. That video is actually really well said. And good on Arnold for that one.
Yeah, whoever would have thought it'd be Arnold Schwarzenegger talking to Donald Trump.
Yeah. Not me.
Back in the day, yeah. No way.
Yeah. 6 months ago, I would have said, "You're out of your mind." So, yeah, I think we've pretty much said all we need to say about this. I think that...
Yeah, just as a minor wrap-up, it sort of seems like that they try and say that it's not good business, the Paris Agreement, but the Paris Agreement isn't really a business plan the way I look at it. It's like guidelines to guide the entire world economy into the future in a way that makes sense for the whole world to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, moving out of it and these proposed budgets and the way that the whole federal government is looking at scientific agencies is definitely not a good sign for our country moving forward.
No.
And any resistance that keeps getting placed, any barriers that keep getting put in front of these agencies and the scientific community really only hurts. And like you said, this isn't going away. The whole world is moving forward, and slowly the ideas and the innovations that are happening will go somewhere else if we're not the ones leading the way.
Mm-hmm.
So like you said, that we probably shouldn't be stepping out, even if it seems like it might be a small, not small, but even if it's a decent portion of our funds that we need to commit to this, it's something that as a country I think we need to say this is our priority. You know, you put your money where your mouth is. Everybody knows America's priority is in the military, because that's where we put all of our funds. And even if we took the money the fraction of it from there, it still would be a small fraction compared to what we give to there.
Be a worthwhile investment.
Like,
Our
totally agree.
The Department of Defense gets outrageous amounts of our tax money. Just outrageous. Like, I like having a well-funded military. I think it's great. We should be the leaders in military, just like we're the world's leaders in other avenues of research and, you know, the front runners of other fields. But by the amount that we lead in putting money into the military, it's just exorbitant. I don't have the numbers in front of me.
Yeah, but we brought up the budgets.
It's exorbitant. I want to just read from the chat a little bit, read from what our viewers are saying here. Kayla Riley says it has to be a collective effort, and we totally agree with that. Nancy Cleta says, wow, Tom, you explained this so well. I learned a lot about this. The developing countries need help with their infrastructure to use renewable energy. So that's great. I agree. You really phrased that quite well, especially right at the top there for everybody. So that was awesome.
Yeah, it reminded me of when we took a class at Stony Brook. The
globalization.
Yeah, it was called globalization, just on how all the countries are connected and how it all really comes together.
Yeah.
And I didn't really realize it until we took it. Like, every country literally depends on every other country.
Yeah.
So this agreement totally makes sense.
Yep. Caracolita says everyone in the U.S. will get a piece of coal in their Christmas stocking. Oh boy.
To put in their coal-powered lawnmower.
Yeah. Let's see. James Farrell says if New York State, California, and Florida maintain commitment, that's equivalent population to France. That's true.
There's a lot of people in the US.
There are a lot of people. Andy gave us a smiley face. I figured he would. And Karen, Kea, says, thanks for explaining how this affects the world, not just us. So it seems like a lot of our viewers are right in line with agreeing with our points on this. You know, this is a complicated issue.
It is.
So there's room for discussion here. And I think the one thing that the president said about this whole fiasco is that he and the administration would be open to renegotiating the terms of the Paris deal, basically, so that, you know, it was less of a burden on us to help everybody else out. So, you know, hopefully something can come of this. I don't like how black and white it is. It's like, oh, you're either in or out. Like, you know, maybe this should be a more evolving structure as, you know, years go on. We reassess how everybody's doing and see, like, okay, well, maybe because
of this unforeseen thing.
Because these European nations have also progressed way further in their development of renewable energy resources. Maybe they kind of take on a little bit more burden and we take on a little less. I don't know. I don't care about those specifics. You know, I'm not a politician.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't like that we're just totally out.
Yeah, it does seem kind of childish that even is the way it's done.
Yeah.
Like you say, oh, I'm out.
And
like, instead of just... Yeah.
I specifically didn't like the fanfare of it.
Yeah.
I'm going to announce the decision in a week. I'm going to announce the decision in the next few days. It's like, just tell us.
Yeah.
You know, just
like,
say it.
Is LeBron James like the guy who's making the announcement? Like, check out the press conference next week when I decide about the world's energy.
I'm telling you,
crazy.
Dude. He got grilled at the G7 summit, and he didn't want to say it in front of all those world leaders because he would have got yelled at by Angela Merkel. I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you.
No, I do I get what you're saying, though, yeah.
So, anyway, that's all the news, I guess, for the week. Do we have a Tom's Corner this week, or were we just kind of banking on this one?
For this one, I just wanted to spend as much time talking about the Paris Accord.
Cool. Cool. So I guess that's our show this week, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate you guys continuing to partake in this discussion with us and learning alongside with us about what's going on as far as science and policy is concerned, and just science research in general. Again, we'll remind you guys to share this with anybody who you might think would be interested in these videos. Subscribe to us if you haven't done so yet. Like the video if you feel so inclined. Dislike the video if you didn't like it.
And any questions or any further articles or cool stuff that you find, always be tagging us so we can all stay in the same loop of information. And if you have any other people who think they have a good argument for the other side or this or that, anything that we can get into a good discussion about, we are always open to discussing. So,
always. So thanks a lot, guys. We'll see you all next week. Catch you later.
Thanks for stopping in, guys.